Okay guys, so Wolcen dropped its first actually substantial patch in what seems like forever. All the other patches leading up to this were like little bug fixes, little kind of, things here and there, and this one actually has a little bit of substantial stuff that you'll be able to tinker with. So this actually marks the end of Second Dawn. Now, for those of you that are kind of outside the loop, Second Dawn is their initiative to relaunch Wolcen. And this was a big thing because back in February, the game wasn't exactly doing so well. There was a lot of bugs, a lot of things that didn't work, a lot of broken things, and they decided, you know what, we're going to push all of our league content. We're going to push the new story chapter, we're going to push all the new content, and we're going to prioritize bug fixing and fixing the game. Now, this angered a little bit of the community, right? And because of some developmental issues and shortcomings, Wolcen put themselves into a situation that they were damned if they did and damned if they didn't. And either way, they're going to lose a big piece of their player base. I'm glad they decided to go with Second Dawn to actually rebuild the game, fix a lot of the broken stuff, and create that solid foundation to then build upon. So 5 months ago, after patch 1.0.4 and 11 patches later with patch 1.0.16, they finally wrapped up all of the bug fixing. So 11 total patches fixing bugs with the game, including the latest one. Now, during these 5 months, they actually went through and they focused on working with the community to tackle the worst bugs. Which ones were the most game-breaking, and let's get those fixed first. So they did that, and now they feel like they have a really solid foundation to start building upon. There's going to be another patch before we get to Chronicles in autumn, so I'm guessing around October timeframe. So before we get there, there's going to be one more patch that's going to go through and rebalance everything. So we have a little bit of balancing in this one, which we'll talk about, but the bulk of all the reworks, the damage rework, all of that stuff is coming in the next patch. But in this one, we have 29 total skills that were rebalanced, most of which were buffed using Wolcen's new scaling methodology, whereas your character grows in level, your skills grow in power. And this is honestly how it should have been from the beginning rather than what we had before. So all of your skills, the base damage is going to be increased by quite a bit. So it's going to raise that floor, the power floor. So it's going to end up raising the ceiling a little bit. Now, they also updated a lot of the tooltips to be more clear in their explanations, because Wolcen was notorious for having incredibly confusing tooltips. The way they went about explaining skills, the way they explained bonuses, it was all incredibly confusing. So it was really hard to put a build together and really understand what you were going for. And then on top of that, a lot of the nodes didn't work anyway, so it didn't matter because that tooltip didn't provide the same bonuses that it said it did. They also went through and reworked a lot of the way damage is calculated. So you have less additive bonuses and more multiplicative bonuses. And I know a lot of people requested this because they noticed a lot of math calculations right out of the gate. And this was a big requested item. Why do you use so many additive bonuses? You need to switch over to multiplicative bonuses. So while they did fix a lot of the bugs and they made the experience smoother overall, right? The main thing that pulled me back to test out this patch were the skills, because some of the skills were absolute garbage before. They just weren't good. They had no business being in the game. They had no business being on your toolbar, and they couldn't get you hardly anywhere outside of campaign, even if that. So now a lot of those skills are decent with the right gear and the right build. I haven't had a chance to go through and test all of them, but I tested kind of the big ones. So Bleeding Edge is doing decent damage again, Frost Lance is actually viable under the right conditions, and Summoners are a thing now. So you can actually have a minion build that's worth a damn. And the gameplay you guys are seeing right now is the newest, latest, and greatest on the patch. I actually have a build link in the description below if you guys want to go out there and try it. So everything in the summoner build actually works. The big guy actually taunts, has a ton of health, and can hold aggro. You have the archers that are doing what they need to do, and you have the melee guys dealing out damage. So now you have a fully kind of kitted out squad that you can roll through. Is it the best experience in the world? No. But is it a viable experience? Yes. Now, here's an example of one of the skills that they went through and they buffed. This is a skill called Parasite. Now, this allows you to drain the life from an enemy, and then that enemy is mind controlled permanently until it dies, or until you drain another enemy to replace him. So it shows the new method of gaining power for this skill, so they go through and they talk about that. It also shows some of the buffs to the modifiers. Now, a lot of the skills follow this theme. They show, hey, here's what you're going to be gaining per level or per leveling bracket, and here are the modifiers you're going to be gaining. So it's good for the game. I mean, overall, Wolcen needed to have some skills buffed. They needed other skills to be competitive and fun to use. After they nerfed Bleeding Edge to the ground, and everyone really was like, okay, well, that was my build. And then after that, people started struggling, and they really just, why would I want to re-level? Why would I want to try to do something different when nothing comes close to that experience that I had? And they moved on. So this was something they really needed to do. They really needed to give people alternatives, and I'm glad they did. So what do people think about it so far? Well, based off of the Discord, initial reception is pretty mixed. So some people are having issues playing the game because crashes when you launch an expedition and people are getting kicked back out to the title screen, things like that. I didn't encounter this other than one time, but I have heard it from a handful of people. So this is something that's affecting more than just one person. So beyond that, a lot of the diehard fans are enjoying the new updates, right? They're going through, testing things, tweaking things, trying to define the new meta. Is this build faster than this other build? The typical stuff. While some of the other come and go players stopped by to check it out, but then moved on to go somewhere else because, you know, maybe their skill hadn't got rebalanced yet, or maybe their build isn't working as good as it could have been, or maybe they encountered a crash. So ultimately, some people are enjoying it, some people are waiting for the next Chronicle. And honestly, I feel like this patch was a necessary one. I mean, at the end of the day, right, they needed to fix a lot of the bugs. They needed to make sure all of the nodes on the skill tree were working, and they needed to fix the skills themselves. So this isn't an overly exciting patch. It's not something that, you know, you write home and tell friends about, like, hey, we should all get on Wolcen and try this out. But it really did set the stage for their make or break update called Chronicles. Now, Chronicles are Wolcen's version of leagues, and these are going to require the player to play through the story again, maybe in a new chapter, because they did say this would come along with another chapter, and perhaps there'll be some new mechanics or modifiers. They have talked about that quite a bit. Now, we don't know what they're planning for the first Chronicle, right? But I'm hoping to see something as involved as Path of Exile. That would be really cool. That's my hope. That's my hope and dream, right? And I really hope they can get that at some point. But in all honesty, we're probably looking at something similar to Diablo 3. A small change to the game that adds a unique twist, but nothing that really kind of like wows players or pulls them in and goes, hey, this thing's completely different. You know, Harvest League, Delirium, Metamorph, all of those things. I highly doubt we're gonna get something like that, at least with the first one. Just because they've been so focused on fixing the game and not necessarily developing that, you know, kind of crazy new content. But I would argue this is probably the time where they need to have that crazy new content. They need to have that showstopper, that just kind of like big confetti bomb of awesome, because if they don't, people are going to write this game off, and that's unfortunate. So I really hope I'm wrong. I hope that they come out, blow everyone away, and this becomes a game that people can play for a long, long time. I want Wolcen to succeed. I think they're taking the right steps. They have an actual customer support team now. They have an actual development team now. They've increased their team size. They're making all of the right decisions and the necessary decisions, getting outside help like David Brevik in order to mold their game for the future. So I want to hear from you guys. What does everybody think about this latest patch? Did you come back and try it? Are you going to try it? Do you want to try the summoner build? And what would it take for you to come back to the game, if at all? So that wraps this one up, guys. I'm excited that Wolcen's kind of back in the land of the living. I was excited to jump back and actually try the game, but I do want to hear from you guys, and as always, thank you so much for the support. I really, really appreciate it, more than you guys could ever imagine. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll talk to you guys next time.